As promised, today is the launch of our annual appeal for pledging financial support of the mission and ministry at St. Barnabas. So let's hear from Sheila Cronan, a longtime member here.
I left my notes at the pew. My name is Sheila Cronan, and I've been coming to St. Barnabas since July of 1989. I was working for a law firm in San Francisco. I had just broken up with my boyfriend of 7 years. Kept running into him downtown. My sisters wanted me to be the free babysitter every other weekend. If I said no, they would enlist mom to do the guilt. And a lot of my friends started doing cocaine. So I decided to remove myself from the situation and asked my law firm for a transfer to the Seattle office, which I received 6 months later. My stepfather was an Episcopal priest in San Francisco. He was a floater at both St. Mary's and St. Aidan's. And I thought the first week I was here that I would come to church and meet people I had something in common with. And I walked from the Madison Avenue apartments near the library and thought, that was a little far. And so at coffee hour, I asked someone to drive me home, and that person said, of course. And I said, but you didn't ask where I lived. And she said, eventually we'll hit water. And that, but 6 months after I moved, my mom was diagnosed with what was called cancer of the uterus at the time, is now endometrial cancer, and was given 2 to 6 months to live. And so I was in dinner group with Jill Van Heusen, and I called her and asked her to come sit with me, and I was crying. And she's like, what's going on, honey? And I said, well, I just found out my mom's dying. And she said, put the tea kettle on, I'll be right there. I didn't know until a few weeks later that she actually left her own dinner party to come sit with me for 2 hours and then go back to her own party. My mom ended up dying 5 weeks later, and both Betty Angel and Jean Hurt and the Van Heusens all took me under their wings for family holidays. And I moved to Kingston in 1999, and then Port Orchard in 2004. And in January of 2019, I drove Betty Angel to church, and the women's retreat in March was announced. And Barbara Bowles was sitting behind me, and I've known her since 1989, and she poked me in the shoulder and said, you've got to go. And I said, you're right. So I just felt that sense of community again, and I started coming again. Anyway, throughout the years, there's been years I haven't been able to pledge, or pledged only a little bit. And I've grown into myself and started doing a little bit more each year. This year I'm retiring in January, and I've decided to increase my pledge despite my retirement because I think I can do it. Social Security starts in February. I don't know what the final number is going to be yet, but I also know, like Karen said a number of years ago, that if you can't make your pledge, all you have to do is call the church. No one's going to send the Bainbridge police after you. All you have to do is just let people know. I think I can do it. I'm going to try and stretch myself to do the increase, but just if you can find it in your heart to maybe push yourself a little, like Diane said. It may be uncomfortable, but if you push, you might be able to do it. So anyway, thank you.